Crap. I have to jump.
Okay, you're good. Mhm. Okay, I think we can go ahead and get started. Thank you all for coming to our Why NYCPM webinar. We have a lot of really great speakers here, 3 of our current students and 1 of our recent graduates. I believe he just finished his residency, who are going to speak. We're going to go ahead and start with some introductions, but feel free if you have any questions, go ahead and throw them in that Q&A section and we'll make sure to, cycle through and get as many answered as we possibly can. But we'll go ahead and start with you, Ellie. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so my name is Ellie McNeil. I'm a current 3rd-year student. I'm 2 weeks away from being a 4th-year student. I'm currently in clinical, and I'm originally from New Jersey. I'm from Wayne, New Jersey. I went to Wayne Hills High School. When I graduated, I went to Marquette University out in Wisconsin. I was in their honors college program. I got a bachelor's of science. I majored in bio. I minored in chem. I did research in chemistry. I graduated. I came to NYCPM. When I first was here, we were on Zoom, so it was still, I think I'm like one of the last COVID classes. And then we went fully back in person. During my time at NYCPM, I've been a TA for a bunch of different classes. I've tutored. I'm a student ambassador, so I help with events like this. And I also am a member of a research group at Mass General, which NYCPM helped me kind of get into. So I'm very thankful for that. Yeah, so.
All right, Ellie, before we move on to the next introduction, why did you choose NYCPM?
So I think the big thing for me that I was looking at some other schools in the area, and I mean, this is going to sound ridiculous, but I came to NYCPM, I had lunch, I hung out with some of the students, I shadowed, and to put it simply, like when I met the students at NYCPM, they were people that like I wanted to have dinner with, or they were people that I wanted to grab like a glass of wine with. Like they were people that I could see myself being friends with and being colleagues with. And I think that was so special because I mean, 4 years is a long time to be training, and you want to be surrounded by people that want the same things out of their education. Like you want people that are ethical, you want people that are kind, you want people that are smart. And like I saw that in the students that were here, and I was like, that's who I want to train with. And then I think I also looked at the faculty, and I could tell like that they really cared about the students. And I looked at the patient population, and I was like, you're not going to see anything that, like this clinical experience is so unique. Like you're not going to see this anywhere else. But mostly it was because I thought I could like grab a beer with a lot of the students.
Awesome. Okay, awesome. Thank you. We'll skip
No
his
problem.
for a second. AJ, how about you go?
All right. Hey guys, my name's AJ Patel. I'm a current 2nd year at NYCPM. Should be a 3rd year in about a month after boards. I'm from Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Was born and raised there. Went to St. James High School, and then after stayed the same town at Coastal Carolina University. I graduated in 2021, got bachelor's in bio, and then minored in biochem. And then directly after, I came here to NYCPM. Currently, I'm a teaching assistant. I tutor for a couple classes, and I'm a student ambassador.
All right, AJ. So why NYCPM?
So I think a big thing for me was that, especially since I basically was born and raised in the South and spent there all the way through college, I wanted a big change of pace. And so when looking at all the different schools, it was pretty much the Northeast. So then I looked at the patient population, and that's what really directed me towards NYCPM.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, Viraj, your turn.
Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Viraj. I am born and raised in New Jersey. I received my Bachelor's of Science in Psychology from St. Bonaventure University. I also received my Master's from Geisinger Commonwealth, which is in Pennsylvania in 2020. And currently I am a 2nd year. I am about 3 days into being a 2nd year. I matriculated in January. I have been the EC for 2 semesters, which is basically someone who communicates between the class and the professor based off of exam questions and any type of confusion or concerns that you may have. I am currently one of 2 RAs for the Bridges, which is our dorming for NYCPM. I am also the class treasurer of 2026, and I'm also a part of APMSA, the website and resources committee member.
Awesome. Okay, so you know a question I have for you, right? Why NYCPM?
Yeah, so obviously born and raised in New Jersey. I've been in and out of the city quite a few times, but it was the location for me. Actually getting to live in the city, I thought I would never have a chance to do that ever in my life. So I was like, this is definitely a great opportunity for me. Plus, everyone that I'd spoken to when I had visited this school, they were so kind, they were so helpful. Any upperclassmen I stopped, they were so willing to help, give me their number for any type of information that I needed. And I just got the overall feel that NYCPM stands for their students, but they also take their pride in having not only given a solid knowledge to their students, but they are very good at seeking for excellence in their students and supporting their students in that way, and just having a unified community throughout.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, let's go back to our DPM speaker. Are you ready for your intro?
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Dr. Joseph Coppola. I'm NYCPM graduate of the class of 2020, the COVID class. I'm currently the chief resident. I'm actually about to graduate in 22 days, but who's counting? From residency, I'm at Metro West Medical Center. It's a small community health center just right west of Boston, about 25 miles away, which I apologize for being late. The traffic here is kind of crazy.
Good. We're just happy you're here.
Well, thanks for having me. But no, NYCPM, I actually started NYCPM as a Janny or a January student. I don't know if they're still calling.
We love our Jannies, yes.
Yeah, it was actually, I think it was like the best choice of my life. I guess I'll just kind of go into a question. I chose NYCPM for a couple reasons. Number one was New York City. Like, come on, like there's no other city like it. Additionally, the first, school of podiatric medicine, which I think is so cool in itself. But the January program also really, really attracted me because I was kind of, I guess, non-traditional student, if you want to say. I had graduated my undergrad in 2009, and I always knew I was going to go into medicine, but it was just like, what was I going to go into? And, I shadowed all different specialties, and I had met a podiatrist, and he was just like, you really should go think about it. And, I thought about it, and I saw that NYCPM had the January program, which was such a great match for me because at that time it was 2015. So it was about 5 years post-college. And I'm honestly so happy I did it. It fit me so well. The schedule was great. I made some great friends. I was active with APMSA while I was a student. I was one of the delegates for the class of 2020. So it just really has served me very, very well, then and now in my training, and especially now that I finish up and start my big boy job.
That's very exciting.
Very, very, very. A little bit about my residency. So like I had said, in Metro West Medical Center. It's one of the 6 programs in Massachusetts. We're affiliated with Tufts University Medical School. We're clinical fellows there. Actually, we train a lot of their MD students. Some rotate through podiatry, some are with us on our rotations. My program specifically is very active with medical missions. I was actually able to go to Honduras this past January. It was such a rewarding experience. If anyone has ever done one or looking to do one, I would highly suggest it. It was called Operation Footprint. It's actually a pretty big, nonprofit. They started off as the Baja Project, it's called, but we fix little children's club feet. And we would see, newborns, infants, 5-10 years old who literally have no money. And one patient actually walked hundreds of miles, with the club foot just to get the surgery, and everything was free. So it's a really rewarding experience. Definitely a highlight of my residency career. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's been awesome. But I've been born and raised Boston through and through, went to BU for my undergrad. And I gave New York City a shot, and I loved every minute of it. Maybe I'll be back.
Now you're back home. Awesome.
Yeah.
So I guess just building a little bit off of your experiences in residency, do you feel
Sure.
like NYCPM prepared you to be competitive when you went on those externships?
Absolutely. And so just keeping like the didactics separate from the clinical, like they definitely have a rigorous didactic program, as you may know, which definitely prepared me. And even looking back, I even refer to some of my old notes, and when you're studying at the time, you're like, is this really relevant? But it is relevant. And like some of those little things definitely come back. But the one of the biggest things, I think it's what I've learned, with externs who rotate through our program and some of my co-residents who went to other school, is just the clinical training, I think, is unsurpassed. You rotate, well, we rotate at all of the major city hospitals and the community health centers, and a lot of schools actually don't get that training. And it prepared me so well because we have such a high volume clinic, and at some of the hospitals like Lincoln Hospital, where they can see like 100 patients in like half a day, really gave me that speed, and really gave me the ability to work on the fly and work on my feet. So I really think that the education and clinical training specifically as well is just unmatched. So definitely prepared for sure.
That's awesome. I mean, we definitely hear that the number one reason that people choose to come to NYCPM is because of their clinical training and because of that volume. And I would love, Ellie, if you could also kind of elaborate on your experiences. I know that you are, just kind of closing out that clinical experiences chapter.
Yeah. So the picture on the left, on the top, was actually me my first week of third year. So just as like visual as to what it's like. So I really enjoyed my time in clinic. So I'm finishing third year, so I've been in clinic for a full year, and I'm just about to head out on my externships. And it's just been so rewarding because I think the clinical instructors really take the time to teach you everything. Your first day in clinic, you go in knowing almost nothing, right? You know the didactic stuff, what you've been taught, in the textbook, but to be in clinic in front of real patients can be really scary. And I think I was very thankful to have the faculty that we did, because it kind of just made it so, by the first month, I was like, okay, like I understand what I'm doing. And then for the rest of the year, you're able to really like perfect your skills in clinic and make sure that by the time you go on externships, you're confident not only in clinic, but also in the operating room. So I just feel really thankful. And then also the patient volume and the diversity of patients. We have patients from all different countries who speak all different languages. That's such a beautiful, like enriching experience to have, because you're dealing with all different populations, different norms, different cultures, and it just makes you a better physician at the end of the day.
That's awesome. So, I guess you're going to start your externships quite soon. Are you feeling very confident going into that now?
Yeah, I feel confident, and I also got all the externships that I wanted. So I'm originally from New Jersey. I am now living in New York, and I wanted to kind of stay in the area. So some of the programs I'm going to are Mount Sinai, Montefiore, New York Presbyterian, Jersey Shore, and then Rutgers programs. So those, they're all great hospital systems. They're all, in the location I wanted. So I feel very thankful that NYCPM helps me get those opportunities. And I'm really excited for what the next year kind of holds for me.
That's obviously great to hear. I think that's great. Switching gears a little bit, but focusing still on that location of New York City. AJ, can you speak about what your transition from, coastal Carolinas all the way up to New York City, how has that been for you?
Well, it's definitely a different lifestyle living up here, a lot more fast paced, always something to do versus, a slower lifestyle. And well, I think just the Southeast in general, especially like South Carolina, North Carolina. But I think that was one of the appealing features of just this school, was that I really was desiring something like that, a fast paced lifestyle. I'm in my 20s, might as well since I'm here. And so I think that was the main thing. And the transition was really, really easy, especially with the faculty at the school. They're all really supportive. A lot of them are from Southern states also. I know a lot of the doctors that are in the clinic now are from Florida, and mainly Florida. So that transition also made it way easier.
That's awesome. So when you were moving and when you were deciding to move, how easy was it to like find an apartment and stuff and like get settled in New York City? Like, did you feel like that was doable?
Yeah, definitely. I think so I originally my first year, I did the dormitory program here at the Bridges, which made it so much simpler because finding an apartment in New York it's an art form, really, especially when you're not from there. And so I think the transition from going to the Bridges, and then now that I have my own apartment, it made it exponentially easier, especially since it's your first year of med school. You're trying to get used to things. It's probably the last thing you want to worry about. So like, especially since the dorm is so close and it has everything you could possibly need.
Yeah, congratulations on your new apartment, by the way. And I guess that brings me to my next question very, very easily, it's about the Bridges. Viraj, will you actually elaborate? I think you are a resident advisor. Is that the title?
Yes, I'm currently one of 2 RAs. I became an RA in October, but I have been living in the Bridges since January of 2022. So when I started school, basically. Honestly, I have nothing but good things to say. It has, like AJ said, it has everything you need. It has a gym downstairs, study rooms, laundry room. But the thing that really drew me to living in the Bridges and staying, which I will be staying for probably at least through my 3rd year, is the proximity to school and the fact that you have your classmates in the same building. So I think that really helps if you ever have a group project or you just need someone to talk to, or if you want to study with somebody in silence. It's so easy to just go knock on someone's door, or if you even want to go out and grab some food, you just pop next door or pop down like whatever floor they're on, and you guys have it's a community of its own. And I think it just alleviates that pressure of not knowing anybody in the city if you're coming from near or far. And when you walk into the classroom, especially on the first day or however you're in your year, it just feels like you have your own niche, your own group, you have your own support system that you built. And I think it's a very good option if you are coming to NYCPM to stay in the Bridges.
Awesome. Obviously, I love to hear that. I know you mentioned group study. Do you feel like that's been very important for you during your time here at NYCPM?
Oh yeah. Coming from obviously like undergrad, masters, we don't really have much experience doing group study at times, but here I definitely think you will thrive if you do it. Even if you don't think you're a group studier, if you study better in silence, I promise you there will be times where you will be studying in your own solitude and in silence, but starting off with a group or even ending with a group, I think it just helps pick up details that you haven't seen yet, or understanding how someone picks up material that you haven't really exposed yourself to. I think it just shows you different ways to learn. And I think that's what med school is all about, right? Is diversifying your knowledge, diversifying the methods that you take on for yourself, because there's always going to be new things that you have to learn and you won't learn them the same way every time. So I think it's definitely beneficial to expose yourself to group studying, and being in the Bridges definitely makes it easier. You don't have to travel, especially late at night if you feel uncomfortable doing that. And Zoom calls, FaceTime, yeah, they work, but being in someone's presence definitely helps.
Yeah, waking up right before that exam too doesn't hurt instead of having to do a whole commute.
Oh yeah, I can't tell you the amount of times I've woken up like 15, 20 minutes before class, still gotten there on time, no pressure. It's really good.
That's awesome. Dr. Coppola, I know that you mentioned earlier, you talked about how rigorous our curriculum is, those didactics classes. Could you potentially elaborate a little bit more about how that curriculum works and how it really did prepare you for success, with our high outcomes and our board's pass rates?
Sure. So, like I said, I was a January student, so I guess my curriculum was slightly different in terms of the scheduling. But yeah, like our first year, was more focused on, how the natural body state is, with your anatomies and your physiologies, biochemistries and things of that nature. And then, as you advance to second year, you start to get more into clinical things and, the disease process and things along that nature, and things kind of pick up a little pace, especially with that last semester before you get into your rotations. But I really enjoyed a lot of the courses. A lot of the faculty are native to NYCPM, which was great. You could always run upstairs if you had a question or 700 questions, which is always a plus. And then, there were a lot of great affiliations with some of the neighboring schools. So you kind of, got a taste of their teaching styles, which was great. But honing in on, for anyone listening, I, was so fortunate to have found that January program, because it kind of, for people who are watching this or who will be watching this and who are in the similar state as me, like I said, I took about 6 years off. It really allowed me to kind of just get back into the groove of things, and kind of let me go in slowly before it kind of came in hard, because believe it or not, it comes in hard with some of those courses, and especially semester 4 when you're having multiple exams a week, and you're starting to get really, really stressed. It can be really hard and challenging. But yeah, no, it was definitely, and this was back with when I started in 2016. So I'm pretty sure the curriculum and things are still the same or similar from then. So
Yeah. So I know you mentioned that you took 6 years off in between,
Yep.
and you went to the January program, which again, I'm a huge fan of the January program, and I know we talked about why you chose NYCPM, and you touched a little bit about why Pod Med, but how exactly did you become introduced to it? Can you elaborate a little bit more on how that happened for you and why you chose Pod Med?
Yeah, so again, it was like this innate feeling. Ever since first grade, I always used to draw myself with like a white coat. And so I was like, I'm gonna be an ER doctor. And then I like shadowed a bunch of like ER doctors, and I was like, everyone just seems like upset. I was like, what's going on here? And then I think honestly, one day I got an email from one of the schools, and I was like, podiatry. I was like, what's this podiatry? Obviously, I knew it was like foot doctors.
Yeah.
But I think one of the misconceptions with podiatry is that people don't understand that there's separate schools. That they're podiatrists are physicians. That you go to residency. You can do surgery, but people just didn't understand that. And I was one of those people. I didn't understand that. So I was actually on a bus going from New York to Boston because I was visiting friends, and I got that email. And I was just like, oh, I had recently gotten laid off my job, and I was like, okay, this med school thing, you gotta go for it. Today's the day, and then I get an email. So then I reached out to the podiatrist, which is down the street, and he was so sweet, he was so kind, and I was like, maybe this is an outlier. So then I was like, let me go to like a big like multi-specialty practice. Maybe like they'll be different. I know everyone was like super sweet and awesome, and everyone was like pro podiatry. And I just really got exposed to the variety, and that's what I like in my life, variety, just the variety of things you can do in podiatry. Whether you want to do a lot of surgery or whether you want to not do a lot of surgery or just do routine care, the world is your oyster. So, I mean, I guess indirectly was an email, but I did my own digging, and then I reached out to NYCPM. I did an exploratory visit. I got to see how the school was. I got to see the environment, and I'm such a city guy. Like I'm not a small town person. So I think when I stepped off the 405 train at like 125th, I like looked up and I was like, okay, like this is where I'm at. I only applied to one other school besides NYCPM, and I was like, we're moving forward with NYCPM. And I will say some of the best moments I had in my life were in those 4.5 years. So
that's awesome to hear.
I made
Because I
some
know it's
really good friends. Yeah, I made some really good friends. Actually, 2 weeks ago, I went to one of my classmates from NYCPM. He had a wedding in Syracuse, which was great. I have so many of my good friends that I had from NYCPM, especially Janice. Just kidding. No, I love my whole class, but no, it's I'm happy that things fell into my lap. Would I change anything? No, not really. And yeah. So
that story that you said about shadowing someone and seeing that he was very nice, very happy. That's
Right.
actually something that I hear all the time when I ask people how they learned about PodMed. They're like, everybody else I shadowed seemed very, very miserable. And then you go and meet a podiatrist and they love what they do and they're so happy in what they do.
Every I said I initially was like, oh, emergency medicine. Every ER doctor, I'm not joking. Every single ER doctor was like, are you sure? And I was like, yeah, why? I'm not like at multiple hospitals. And then I was like, okay, I was reading, I was like, oh, like ER doctors have the highest burnout rate. I was like, maybe infectious disease. And the same thing, infectious disease doctor, are you really sure you want to do this? And then every podiatrist is like, oh my God, do it. I love it. Like one was about to retire and he's like, I'm so sad I'm retiring. Like I could continue to do this like for years and years and years, but I just have to for health reasons. And so Yeah, that's the number one thing I hear is, oh, you're a podiatrist? I love my podiatrist. Or,
Mhm.
oh my God, you're a podiatrist? Like, my podiatrist is like the nicest, most friendly person. Like, those are like the two main things I always hear. And I
That's
was
awesome.
like, yeah, me too. I'm nice and friendly. So
I'm also the nicest and
I think it's
friendliest
a good fit.
That's awesome. Well, how
Yeah.
about I pose that same exact question? Why podiatric medicine to the rest of our panelists? So Ellie, if you would like to start, why did you choose podiatric medicine?
Yeah, so kind of similar. I always kind of wanted to be a doctor. I thought I wanted to be like an eye doctor or OB-GYN or a dentist. Like I kind of thought about all of it. And then I went to undergrad, I went to Marquette, and they have like a really rigorous science program. They have like a dentistry program, they have a PA program. So all of my pre-med advisors were like, you're not going to be a doctor, you don't have the grades, it's not going to happen. And my grades were, I probably could have, but so I thought about going to law school, and then one day my mom called me and she was like, I just went to the podiatrist and I had the most amazing time. And I was like, you had an amazing time at your foot doctor? Like, are you sure? And she's like, no, it was fabulous. Like, you should be a foot doctor. And I was like, Mom, I'm not gonna be a foot doctor. You're being ridiculous. And she was like, no,
Look
no,
at
you're
you
gonna love
now.
it. Yeah. She was like, no, you're gonna love it. They have all these like fun tools and it's like super like hands-on. And I was just like, I don't really like see that. So she was like, just shadow one and then we'll go from there. So I went to go shadow a podiatrist and he was so happy and he loved his job and very similar qualities to what we were just talking about. And I went to go shadow more podiatrists because I was like, maybe it was just a hiccup. And every podiatrist I talked to, I mean, they went to all their kids' birthday parties. They went to all their kids', baseball games. They went away on vacation with their families. They picked up their kids from school. And I was like, I don't want to, I want to do something I love, but I also don't want to sacrifice having a family and, having a beautiful life. So the decision was kind of clear for me. And yeah, I also only applied to 2 schools. I applied to NYCPM and one other school, but I knew it was going to be NYCPM. And I have no regrets. Like, I'm in my 3rd year. And of course, any sort of graduate school that you go to is difficult and you have to study and it's hard, but I love it. I'm really happy. And I also agree that I've had some beautiful moments in the time that I've been here. My study group actually decided, I just moved apartments, that I didn't need to hire movers, that we could rent a U-Haul and they could move me to my new apartment.
Oh, that's so nice. That's a lot of work.
Yes. And we all did it and we had a huge party and it was really fun and it was beautiful. And I was just like, I wouldn't have moments like this if it wasn't for NYCPM, and I wouldn't be living in New York if it wasn't for NYCPM. So yeah, that's kind of how I got into podiatry. And yeah, it's super hands-on. It's always something new. It's always something interesting. I think every week that we go to a clinic, we see something that we would never think or expect that we're going to see. So it's exciting.
That's awesome. All right, AJ, did you have the exact same experience as well? Did you shadow and love it?
Honestly, yeah, I think that's goes for most people. Mine was it's a little different, but overall it's a really similar story. In high school, I knew I wanted to do medicine of some sorts, but I had literally no idea. I was like, it could be anything at this point. And then I happen to have a really close family friend that I've known like pretty much my entire life that is a podiatrist. He's older, but when I told him about it, I think I was like junior year of high school, maybe. He said, okay, like you can come shadow my office, see how it is. He was on staff at a couple of hospitals at the time. And then I think, I think progressively throughout not only high school, but college, I would continue.
High school's early.
Yeah, very, very early. He just kept having me come in, see, he was like, oh, I have a cool patient like coming in on whatever day. You can come in and watch if you want. I go, oh, awesome. And then however many, I think here comes my junior year of college, take the MCAT. He goes, all right, you're applying, right? I go, yes, I am. And so, and here we are now. And even now, every time I come, I go back home, I get to go shadow in his office. And now I know a little more.
Know what you're seeing. Yeah. So I guess he's a little bit of like a mentor for you.
Yeah, 100%.
That's awesome. All right, Viraj, it's your turn to tell the same story.
Honestly, it's the same thing. Knew I wanted to be a doctor. My family also has had or currently is having some sort of foot issue. So one of the random days when I was home in the summer from college, I went to a podiatrist with my mom and he's actually a NYCPM alumni. So I just started
Yeah.
talking to him. He had nothing but amazing things to say about the school, and he's like, you know what? Come to my office on Thursday. See what you like, see what I do, and then tell me if you don't love it. I went and I was like, okay, I'm gonna see you again on Friday. He's like, no, I take Fridays off. I was like, what? And he's like, no, I finish clinic on Thursdays. I go home to my family. I play golf. I have a good time. I go and see my kids play their sports. And I was like, okay, so I'll see you Monday then. He's like, absolutely. So ever
That's
since
awesome.
that experience, I loved it. He sold me on NYCPM. He sold me to the field. It was really enlightening. And it honestly, it gives you a lot of gratitude to think I can be a doctor and I can make a difference in this field. So that's kind of why I chose podiatry.
That's awesome. Thank you. So just talking to the audience for a second here, I am nearing the end of my list of questions. So if you have any questions for our current students or for Dr. Coppola, who recently graduated or is about to graduate his residency, please put them in that Q&A. But one of my last couple of questions, I want to pose this to all of our panelists. Can you speak to the diversity at NYCPM and how that has shaped your experiences, your your education, your clinical experiences, so on and so forth? Whoever wants to take that one first. Ooh, someone's got to.
I can start, I guess. I have been to, including NYCPM, now 3 different institutions, and this is by far the most diverse institution I've been to. Also just being in the city itself, you see so many different people, but in our class itself, I think I've learned more about different cultures and religions than I ever have in my life. And that only makes me feel more confident going forward because I can now better relate to them in my future patients, different pathologies that may present differently in every individual. And it just makes me feel very thankful to have known all these people that come from different backgrounds. And I don't know, I think it's really great to know more about humanity in general, especially going into a field that requires it. So
Absolutely. Who else?
Yeah, I think that I always joke, I actually learned so much about culture too, going to NYCPM, because it's just such a melting pot, because it's in New York City, and so a lot of people have that same drive to come to the big city, right? People for years have always wanted to come to the big city. And, I know they've created some more podiatry schools in recent years. But yeah, no, I really think it's super diverse. There's so many different experiences. There's whether you have within the school, or whether you have in your personal time. And just the area itself, it's just really diverse, that you get exposed to a lot. And I would not have it any other way, as I couldn't imagine being stuck in a small town, doing all this stuff. Because one thing that I forget, someone had mentioned on the panel, like the work-life balance is really, really important, whether you're a student or podiatrist. And obviously you're going to be studying a lot, and you're going to be in clinic a lot, but when you have that time to digress, like there's just so many options for you. And it's really important too. You can't always just be in the books. You have to digress just for your own mental sanity, so there are so many different things you can do on your free time, so many different events. That's one of the biggest things I miss about New York City, is just the random events that kind of happen. As you can see, some of my random events from the slideshow.
This little the award that you got.
Picture was actually, as I had mentioned, I was an APMSA delegate. This was at our graduation party, where they gave us little plaques. So that was the president and the president-elect, and they said I was the most likely to complete a pre-surgery timeout in the form of a dance party, which is actually still true to this day. But yeah, no. And then the other pictures, I want to explain myself. If you go back to the other photos, if you on the other slide, oh my God, this middle one. This was at the football. This was actually 2 weeks before the pandemic had started.
Wow.
So no, this was February 20-something, 2020. Obviously I was having a grand old time there. And this is just 2 of my classmates that we were there. And then the bottom right pic is me again at the legislative conference. That was one of the conferences we had to go as APMSA delegates. And this was just actually my representative. I was a constituent in their territory. And this was a cool picture I took, that was awesome. We got to talk to a lot of senators and reps and stuff to advocate for podiatry in our home state. Yeah, which is awesome. And they're actually more receptive to the students that they are to like practicing podiatry. 'Cause, you know, we are the voice, we are the future of the field. You know, so.
Do you recommend that future podiatry students get involved in the APMSA or APMA?
When I did my first exploratory visit at NYCPM, the gentleman who brought me around, he he goes to me, he's like, look, if you come here, there's 2 things that you should do. He goes, number 1, work in the library, which I did all 4 years. And he said, number 2, become the APMSA delegate for your class. He's like, it's just a really like rewarding experience. You know, you get to advocate for your class on a national level. And it truly was like, we would go on 2 different conferences. One usually was in Nashville, one was wherever the national conference was. So it was in different states. You would meet students from all over the country. You know, hear about their experiences, how life it is in their towns and stuff like that. Which made me like New York City even more. And it was just, we got to just implement things that, you know, are, you know, being used today. So I would suggest anyone watching, if you do matriculate into the school or any school, like APMSA delegate is a great way to not only better yourself, but better the field in general.
That's awesome. Backtracking a little bit to that same diversity question, Ellie, can you elaborate at all in your experiences in our clinic?
Yeah.
Or in the clinical rotations?
Yeah. So when I was looking at a school, I actually knew before I came to NYCPM that diversity was something that I was really looking for, because at my undergraduate institution, I actually ran one of the soup kitchens on campus. So I knew that I wanted somewhere that was like very diversity focused, but also very ethical. And I think that working in the public hospitals in New York is definitely something that will give you that experience. So when I started my clinical rotation at the beginning of this year, I knew that I was in for like, you know, some crazy stuff. But I think if looking back on, if I was going to tell someone who's looking at podiatry school or medical school right now, you know, advice on it, I would say that like in terms of your didactic years, you're going to get very similar classes and very similar experiences no matter where you go. But the things that you're not going to get no matter where you go is, one, like the diversity in your class in terms of people, and then also diversity in pathology. And both of those things are what you're going to get at NYCPM. And I think both of those things are going to make you a stronger doctor at the end of the day. And also it's going to just give you a fuller life, because you're going to be able to learn new things and you're going to be able to meet new people that if you'd chosen a different path, you might have never, you know, met. And I think that's amazing. Like, I think of all the things, I mean, one of my closest friends at school is Orthodox Jewish, and I mean, I'm Catholic. I don't really know that much about it. And I've gone to, you know, Shabbos, I've gone to the holidays at her house. You know, I've spent holidays with other people from school, and you know, I would have never had those experiences. And it's beautiful. I love it. It's probably one of my favorite things about going here. So yeah.
I love that. Thank you for sharing.
No problem.
Before we start with the Q&A from the attendees, Viraj, can you talk a little bit about this Yankees game? I have a photo of you in.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was nearing our end of first year, and one of our friends was just strolling online looking at Yankees tickets because she's a really big baseball fan. She's like, guys, they're $5 tickets. And we looked at each other in a group of like 12 of us, and we're like, buy them right now. Let's go. Next Thursday after our exam, we're going. We all went to class on, I think it was a Friday. We all went to class on Friday. We all took the train together down to the Yankee Stadium. It was such a blast. This was my first experience at a baseball game. And it was amazing. We're definitely going to do it again, but it just goes to show that you build such a great community within NYCPM. You love to do things together, and it's so fun. Like, one of the guys was just like, hey guys, let's document this. Let's take a selfie really fast. We're like, okay. And I think we all came back to the bridges, even though some of them don't really live here. We all came back to the bridges and just continued celebrating and hanging out, because we were just like, this is the end of our first year. We did so good, guys. So it was a really great time. I highly recommend when you come to NYCPM, go and see a Yankees game.
That's awesome. Thank you. All right, Agatha, can you tell us what's in the Q&A?
Yes, so the first question is, how large are the cohorts?
Okay. Well, our cohort, the size of the cohorts, honestly, it depends on the applicant pool. We take the most, prepared, and they have to have a certain GPA, a certain MCAT score, obviously. But it really just depends, and it also depends on if it's January or if it's fall. Our January classes tend to be smaller because most of our students will start in the fall classes. But I'd say that they are generally around 70 people. They can be more though, and a lot of our classes have been bigger than that, but we're not going to push just to fill seats if we don't have those qualified applicants. So we try to keep it as condensed as we possibly can.
Okay, so the next question is, what specific resources are available for students during the didactic years?
Okay, let's have some of our students take that one.
I can do that one. So the library is awesome. Big proponent of the library here. Especially, I mean, obviously our professors are amazing, especially our second year. We have a lot of, adjunct professors come from Mount Sinai, or like some are world renowned. Like Dr. Schwartz is one of the best cardiologists in the country, he's retired now, but was, a pretty famous cardiologist. But back to the library, we have full access and online access to full board review series textbooks, the BRS textbooks, so many other textbooks, anatomy videos, surgery videos, you name it, we probably have it. Not only that, this year, I believe we got access to Osmosis and Picmonic, which, as someone that's getting ready for boards, Osmosis has been awesome, just because they have lots of practice questions, lots of like flashcards, these kinds of things.
Awesome. Thank you. Anyone want to elaborate on that?
I just have something to add. I know NYCPM has a really good tutoring system. So if you ever feel like you're overwhelmed for a class before it started, or even a few exams in, you're just like, I don't know, you can immediately go and sign up for a tutor, and an upperclassman who has previously done well in the course will help you, guide you, give you any type of extra resources that you need. And I think that that's been really helpful. I know I've utilized that system before, and it's really helped in terms of just getting my knowledge together, feeling less overwhelmed, and just getting through the course as well and doing well in it.
Perfect.
Awesome.
So we have a next question. What are your favorite classes during your time at NYCPM?
Mm-hmm.
Who wants to take that?
I'll be brave. So I think my favorite, this is a very controversial answer, I think. So one of the harder courses that you take during your time at NYCPM is pod surgery. There's 3 different semesters of it. So there's pod surgery 1, 2, and 3. It's a very difficult course, but it was actually probably my favorite class because you had to think in a new way. It's like very, I don't want to say abstract because it's surgery, but it's like, okay, if you cut this bone and you move it this way, like what happens? Or, okay, if you're going to cut this bone, where are you going to move this tendon? So it takes things a step further than just like knowing the anatomy of things. And I think it's also probably one of the most practical classes because it's what you're actually going to use. And the lectures that we have, I mean, Dr. Jules is a phenomenal surgeon and he's a great teacher. So I feel very lucky that I got to learn from him. That's been my favorite class just because I think it's really useful. And it's just very challenging in like a new way.
Okay.
Next,
Yeah,
I'm gonna interject and say, for those of you who like, what sets like podiatric medical school apart versus like your traditional MD or DO is that like, and for people on the panel, you might not know that like there's 2 different anatomies, right? So there's your general anatomy where you basically learn from head to like, I guess, pelvis. And then, you do your traditional cadavers. I think NYCPM now has a virtual cadaver lab. Is that what I had?
We do. Yeah, very new. We love that simulated
Yeah. So we didn't have that. So that's a new addition. I didn't get that. But that's totally fine. Totally going with the times. I love it. And another thing too, so going back to what I'm saying, so you have your traditional anatomy class, which I don't think my professors, I had Dr. Joy Reidenberg. She was awesome. She used to actually teach the anatomy to Mount Sinai MD students, like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then Tuesday, Thursday, she would give the exact same course to us. So we were literally getting the same anatomy course as the MD students just down the street. So once you finish with that, this is going to sound morbid, but you kind of just take the legs off, and then that becomes your lower extremity. It's just how it is. That becomes your lower extremity course, and you have a course specifically on the lower extremity, and it's just a couple months long. You learn the inside and out of the lower extremity, which is obviously important because we are physicians of the lower extremity. So I think if people on the call might not understand, but those two actually were very, very challenging. But I still actually consult some of the resources I have to this day from those courses. But yeah, the lower extremity course was really, really interesting. And it could be really challenging, especially with the practicals, because again, I graduated a couple years ago, but they would you would have a practical and they would literally have like a limb, but like it was all covered up except for like this one little spot. And they were like, what nerve is this? And you're like, okay. But it just would really challenge you to know what you're doing, because at the end of the day, you're a doctor of the lower extremity. You have to know, especially in surgery, what exactly it is giving your little tiny field. So in the moment, you're like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. But like, it's just preparing you for the real life when you're actually under the lights and you're by yourself and you are like, is that a nerve or is that like, what is that? So, but it was really challenging, but very rewarding. And I also too, it's what sets the podiatric schools apart, because we do get that additional training that other programs do not get.
Perfect. The next question is, this is a funny question. How was your transition to clinical environment like for someone who is a theory geek? It seems quite challenging.
A what geek? Sorry, Agatha?
He just says he's a geek in theory, so he wants to know how challenging it is going to be moving into the clinical environment.
Yeah, Ellie, that's yours.
I'll take it. So I was talking to prospective students. This circles back, I promise, but I was talking to prospective students the other day, and they asked me like, what's like the best thing I can do like before, or like as someone that had already committed to coming here. And they said, what's the best thing I can do before I like come to medical school? Like, should I read something? Should I do something? And I was like, you should waitress for a summer. And they were like, what? And I was like, yeah, like I think waitressing was probably one of the best things I did before I went to medical school. And they were like, why? And I was like, because at the end of the day, clinical is very similar to waitressing or to doing something that's very like social, because it's like, yes, a lot of it is theoretical, but a lot of it's also just being like, how's your day? Like, do you have, how's your family? Just kind of that conversation. And I think, that's not something that you're going to learn in your didactic years, right? But it is something that you can learn on the weekends or before you go to school or with, your side job. I TA'd, I worked on different projects at a community college. Like I learned those skills elsewhere and then, applied them in clinic. So I think, if you've had any, side jobs or you've done anything like that, like you're going to be okay in clinic. It's going to be okay. So it's a lot more simple than it sounds. Like when you first start clinic, the most important thing to be is nice and to be ready to learn. I think if you bring enthusiasm to learning, any clinical experience you have is going to go well, because attendings just want to know that you're willing to learn and that you're enthusiastic.
That's a great answer.
Perfect. He also thank you for sharing your insights, by the way.
No problem.
And I always say this, it sounds weird, but like being a doctor sometimes is like the ultimate customer service job, to piggyback off of what you said. I tell all my friends this all the time, because obviously you have to be competent. You have to know the material. People are coming to you for a reason, right? But you also have to, put all your personal things aside, even if you're having a bad day, and always have a smile. So like, just be yourself. People will come to you for that. And I'm not saying, maybe you can tell I'm like loud and obnoxious and gregarious, that serves me well. But like, if you just are yourself and you're nice, and you do have, the information, like you will be all set. I think that you will be doing a disservice to yourself if you obsess and you're worried about how it is, and just let it roll. Everything works out the way it needs to. And people will come to you when you are yourself. Yes, absolutely.
That's actually something that I've heard a lot from people in general, is that one of the reasons why they love seeing their podiatrist so much is because they do take that time to really sit down and get to know them. Because, eventually you might treat their children or you'll treat their neighbor, and like you really get to know each of your patients, and you see them so frequently too that you really can, well, sometimes obviously it depends, but you can really build those strong relationships. So I think that's great.
And I have I have patients that like have like walked out of clinic because I wasn't there. I had like a vacation day. You know what I mean? So it's just because like they don't like, and it could be like just like a callus. You know what I mean? That anyone can shave a callus. I'm just, there's obviously we do more than just that, but just to say that like, yeah, like, and it's just because they just want to have a conversation. Like when I'm trimming their callus, like I might not even do the best job, but they just want to see me, So again, just be yourself. Don't worry about things. Clinical training, you are trained, I think, better than most people that I've seen. And someone had mentioned Dr. Schwartz with the physical assessment course. You learn head to toe physicals. He wrote the book on physical assessment. We learned that. There's no better way to learn from the courses here. So.
Awesome.
So true. Your next question, what are some of the research opportunities provided to students early on in the program? I know the third years just finished their research day, right?
Yeah. So, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, there's so much research that you can do, whether you want to do it or not. Like starting first year, like one of my work study jobs was to like work on a research project for one of he's not there anymore, but one of the prior biochem professors. He was doing a lot of research. And so that kind of put me in there almost immediately, because someone's always writing something or doing something. And then, as you had said, like third years do a research project. I believe it's mandatory still, right? I think so. Yeah. But you can definitely get involved. People are, again, we're multiple medical schools, multiple schools in New York City. The world is your oyster. NYCPM is there to support you. It's absolutely there for sure.
Okay, the next question. How are the tests and assignments graded?
Someone else can have to answer that because I think it's
yeah, no, you're gonna so we don't have very many assignments, at least your didactic years. Pretty much everything's exams, which that's pretty much like every other medical school in the country. They're multiple choice. You take everything on an iPad electronically together. Yeah, it's your pretty standard, just multiple choice grades. You are able, so I believe we are out of a 4.0 scale, and you get letter grades which correlate to that, but a lot of undergrads do that. So it's pretty standard, nothing crazy.
And you guys get the good iPads now.
Yeah, all of our
I still use mine.
I
I still use mine. No, that's awesome. I know not a lot of schools like get the iPads, but that also helps with like learning too, because like obviously like a lot of students want it, to learn. It's just easy, but the fact that you're given one and that's what you take your tests on, you can put all your notes on there, you can search the web on it. You can use it for your work-life balance, for your free time if you want to watch YouTube or Netflix. It's all there. But yeah, no, for sure. That's I don't. Yeah, no, I was just thinking about like some of the tests I had too. Like my hardest test was the immunology final. I don't know if that's still like.
I'm a TA for that course. Yeah,
I just took it. I just took immuno.
After that final, it was like so hard, but we learned a lot. But people were like, people were shook. But it was the hardest test I had.
I think it hasn't changed. That final's been
okay,
like
cool.
the hardest the school has. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, definitely had to hit the happy hour after that one.
Also, in terms of classes, I think one whenever I meet first year students or people that are starting here, what I try to remind them is that it's not undergrad. Like, you don't need a 4.0, you don't need a 3.9, you just need to get through. And I think it's such a like radically different way of thinking than what we're taught in undergrad, because we all were pre-meds, we all were worried about getting into medical school, we were all worried about grades. And then when you get to graduate school, I mean, yes, you have to pass, you want to do well, but is it the end of the world if you get an 80? Absolutely not. So I think it's also kind of like shifting your mindset on that too, because you know, other things matter besides your grades, right? Your clinic skills, your, you know, how your hand skills, all those things. So yeah.
That's actually a really good point, Ellie, because like being on this side of things, you know, when I was a student, like, yeah, people, of course, you obsess about your grades, your GPA, like, oh my God, I want to go to this program, but like, I don't have this like GPA. And like, there's really a handful of programs that like really are steadfast in their thinking for like, you need this, this, and this. But like, again, being yourself, having good hand skills, you know, just kind of getting your name out there, doing the extracurriculars, like really does go a long way. That doesn't mean that you can slack off. Obviously, do the best that you can. But yeah, it's definitely just a different way of thinking. And don't ever cut yourself short. If you are in that mode, and this is all the panel too, like if you're like, oh, I really want to go to this externship or this program, but like, I don't know if I have the grades, like you don't determine that. Let them determine that. You could apply and then go ahead, like don't ever cut yourself short, because people are really looking for, because when you get into residency, like none of that matters anymore. What matters is if you can do the job, because there are people out there who actually, you know, do have high grades, but they're just, their hand skills aren't the best, and it goes both ways. So just never cut yourself short. If that's one thing you take from Dr. Joey today, take it.
That's great advice. One last question, I guess. How many total hours of general studying in a day that you do? How does your day start, and how long are your classes? Who wants to answer that?
So coming in as a January, I will definitely say the workload was like divided amongst 3 semesters, but my typical day was classes from 9 to about 3 p.m. depending on what day, obviously longer on lab days. And I put about maybe 3 to 4 hours of studying each day, more on the weekends. Obviously when you get into second year, it's more than that. Typically, like today I was in class from 8 to 4, and I will probably put in a few hours of studying in, but I also make sure to take time for myself to work out, eat, maybe go and get some sunlight, whatever it is. But I think it's definitely doable. It is a balance that you'll learn to acquire, and it is possible. Nothing is impossible, and this is definitely something you will get through and learn to be used to.
Yeah, I think also, sorry, just so clinical, the schedule is a little different. You have your classes in the morning from 7, and then at 7 a.m. and then you go to clinic at 9, and you can be in clinic from 9 to 12, or you could be in clinic from 9 to 6. Like, it just depends where you are. Yeah.
Yeah, and we're going into getting ready for the part 1 board exams, which every podiatry student has to take in July, but they give us time off. So we've had the last 2 weeks off basically, where our old professors are giving us lectures, but pretty much for this span, you spend most of your day studying in all reality. And then we also have a like little transition period to get used to clinic. So they're called like clinical skills. So we start the part 2 of that in a week, but there's still ample time to get prepared before that.
Awesome. So I have one closing question for Dr. Joey. I mean, based off of all of your experiences and everything that you've done, would you recommend NYCPM to any future students? I hope you say yes.
Of course. These years. And even though I had taken X amount of time off, like absolutely, I have made such great friends, number 1. Number 2, I had learned so much. Number 3, I explored so much. I saw so many like interesting things in the clinics. Like my first day of clinic 3rd year, like it was like a homeless man with maggots, right? And it sounds like nasty, But like when that comes to my hospital now, like some of the other residents were like, what do we do? And I'm like, all right, Dr. Zinzi told me what to do. This is what we're gonna do. You know? So you really see so much, you learn so much. There is the wide range of professors, staff, people who've been there for so long, they know exactly what they're doing. I can't say anything bad. Like I would, if I were to go back again, even with new schools popping, I still would pick New York for the didactics, the clinical experiences, and the location, obviously, and just the people. Like I literally just I've been in cases all day, and I just sped home to talk with you guys and all of the prospective candidates or people wanting to apply. I think that says a lot. So
it does. It really, really does. And thank you and to obviously all of our other panelists for coming. I really, really appreciate it. Just some closing statements for the rest of our attendees. I know we mentioned the January program a little bit. We do have a video on our YouTube channel that goes into a little bit more into depth about our January program, because that curriculum is a little bit different. So if you have any questions about that, please go check out that video. We also do shadowing placement. So if you're looking to shadow someone, let us know. And also, I know that there were some questions in the Q&A that we probably didn't get to. So if you want to send us an email, please do. It's enrollment@nycpm.edu. I can answer any questions. I can set you up with a student to speak with, or even a alumnus to speak with as well. There's a lot that I can do for you and a lot that I can do to help if you reach out and if you ask for help. I will go ahead. Let's see. I can throw the email address into the chat. Okay. So yeah, let me know if you have anything. And otherwise, I hope you enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you so much for coming.
bye. Thank you.